Appreciate the turnout here. As you can see, there are quite a few honors here. I'm going to read a citation that is on his wall, but it's very delicate, and we want to make sure that it didn't break. And so his daughter wrote all of this out for me, and we're going to read this, and then we're going to honor him with these medals. It is really an honor to do this. We've done almost 500 of these, as I said before, and most of our counterparts will put these in the mail somewhere. And I can't imagine, Philip, I can't imagine a World War II guy walking out of his farmhouse an eighth of a mile to his post box in the middle of a blizzard and opening them up and out and fall off the medals. That's just not the way we ever deem that this is the appropriate way. We want to come and do this in person as it should be done. If this is all I did in my job, I'd do it 24 hours a day. It's truly an honor. And we had one of these back on Saturday too. Same physical condition that Philip was in, another Vietnam veteran on Saturday. And so it means an awful lot. It means a lot to us too, Philip. So this is from the Secretary of the Navy. It takes pleasure in presenting the Navy Commendation Medal to Philip J. Huss, Boatswain, Mate, 3rd Class, United States Navy, for service as set forth in the following. Why don't you come up here and let me read this? Citation: for meritorious achievement while serving with friendly foreign forces engaged in enemy conflict against North Vietnamese and Viet Cong communist aggressors in the Republic of Vietnam. On 19 August 1968, Petty Officer Huss was Mount 52 gunner of Patrol Craft number 79. In that capacity, he provided accurate and deadly fire in support of combined operations. As a result of his efforts, 13 enemy were killed and several weapons were captured. Petty Officer Huss' outstanding professionalism, courage under fire, and exemplary initiatives significantly contributed to the United States efforts in the Republic of Vietnam and were in keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Naval Service. Petty Officer Huss is authorized to wear the Combat V for valor. And this was signed Admiral Zumo, Vice Admiral, United States Navy, Commander of U.S. Naval Forces in Vietnam. So let's go ahead and show these medals, and then we'll describe them. Now, if we were pinning these on, we'd be here for 2 hours. And normally I do that, but we like to dress this up in a nice fashion, and so this is what we've been doing for the several that we've done. We would start from least precedence to highest in precedence. So if we were pinning these, we'd start from furthest from the heart to the heart, and then we'd start the next row and the next row. So there are enough here for probably 3 rows. This is a Vietnam Campaign medal. This is a foreign medal not provided by the United States. And you notice it doesn't have an end date. It has 1960 and no end date. I thought that was because we were still waiting for all of the accounting of the POWs and MIA. When we left in 1975, there wasn't any government to put the date on. And so this is all in Vietnamese. It has an outline of Vietnam with a flame in the center between North and South Vietnam. This is a meritorious service medal for civic action, provided again by the Vietnamese government. This is the Gallantry Cross from Vietnam with the wreath. This is our United States version of the Vietnam Service Medal. It has bamboo and a dragon. Ancient dragon was the warrior for Vietnam. It's got a crossbow on the reverse side and a flame. And he has 3 Bronze Star service devices. Those are for each campaign. In World War II, a campaign was a location like Normandy or Sicily or North Africa or the Ardennes. In Korea and Vietnam, it was a time frame. The offensive of 1960, the communist counteroffensive of 1950. The same thing in Vietnam. So he was involved in 3 separate campaigns over there on his swift boat duties. And then this is the Expeditionary Medal, because in 1965, as he was joining the Navy, there was an uprising in the Dominican Republic. And so we sent the Navy in to squelch that civil war, because there was an enemy, actually a communist, that was trying to take the government over. So our Navy and Marines were over there for about 8 months or so to squelch that. This is a National Defense Service Medal. This is authorized anytime we're at war, starting in Korea. So it went idle after 53. It came back during Vietnam, 1960, 1975. It went idle again until the Gulf War. And now, if you serve today, you would receive the National Defense Service Medal because we are at war with the terrorists. This is the Navy Good Conduct Medal. This is for zeal, obedience, and fidelity. And as is typical with the Navy, you always have a ship there somewhere or an anchor. You know, it's just something about the Navy, but I understand that. This is the oldest commendation medal of any of the services, and it has the USS Constitution, the original tall ship, on the front, which is now housed or ported in Boston. This is that commendation medal I was telling you about with the V for valor. This has a beautiful rendition of an eagle standing on lightning bolts, and all I can say is thank God that Ben Franklin didn't have his way, because Ben wanted the national bird to be a turkey, and I don't think these medals would look near as good with a turkey. And then, of course, the Purple Heart, because you see, he was wounded in combat in a place not too far from Da Nang when they met up with the enemy, and he got hit with multiple rounds of machine gun fire, which laid him up. As a matter of fact, it brought him home early, and he was in convalescence for almost a year. Ended up at Great Lakes Naval Air Station, not far from where I grew up. I was down in Glenview. I think we were talking about that. And he was there when he was finally discharged. So he had to come out of the war a little early because of those wounds. This is the most recognized medal in the world. George Washington in 1792 sanctioned this as the badge of merit. It did not have his bust on it. It was a 2-inch by 2-inch piece of cloth that was sewn on your uniform. So everybody could recognize you were one of these folks. He couldn't pay his folks a lot of money. In fact, many of them deserted, but he loved his troops, George Washington did. So he kept a book of their names. The book was lost and later found. This medal went defunct until MacArthur brought it back in 1932. The bust was added. This is the Washington family coat of arms right here. And this is for either losing your life or being wounded in combat. And so, as I say, that is the most recognized medal. Now, I had to write these down because the Navy has a lot of different ones than I do. But this is the Navy Meritorious Unit Award. This is the Navy Unit Commendation Award. Now, just the fact that I brought those two up, the fact that he was in combat with the V and was wounded, tells you an awful lot. It tells you his history. And I can guarantee you that he was in a lot of firefights, and it was very critical. This is a combat action ribbon right here, and this is the Presidential Unit Citation right here. Very few units received that. If he had received this individually, it would have been the equivalent of the Distinguished Service Medal, which is the second highest medal that you could receive. So it says an awful lot about Philip. It says an awful lot about his comrades that were on those small, very vulnerable swift boats. What were the lengths of those, you remember?
50 feet.
50 feet. How many guns?
Well, we had twin 50s midships, and we had about 50 caliber machine gun and 81 millimeter mortar aft.
Now you had a 50 cal. Which one were you on? The midship?
Aft.
Aft.
With 81 millimeter mortar.
Okay. Where did you get wounded? Where was it in your?
Well, I got it shackled from head to toe.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, all we can say is there are no thanks. There's no thanks enough to honor these folks for the service that they provided. They went over. They were asked to do a mission. They did a very, very good job, and it's just unfortunate at that point in time they weren't honored the way that they should have been. I can tell you this, though. The United States, the people today, when you talk about Vietnam, they have a whole different impression of our veterans and how much sacrifice that they had to endure by fighting in those conditions. And so we want to honor you today, Philip, for your service. And thank you for your service. You've got a great family, by the way. Really enjoy meeting them all. I don't know if the family wants to come up, maybe get a picture or something. You want to do that? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. How about a hand? Yeah. rock star now, Phil. Too much movement. Here we go. One more time. Right over there. One more time. Everybody still. Another.
Thank you.
Oh, good. Now, I understand that you wanted to say something.
Yes.
Tony, I just wanted to say it's unbelievable how many people turned out for Bill. Because now is the time to honor him. And he said something to me this morning. He said, you know, I don't want anybody to think I'm on an ego trip, and believe me, he's not. He said, I want my medals because I want my kids and my grandkids to have them. And it just so happens that he went to the service officer and she contacted Senator Boozman, who had this man here, Steve Gray, come and present these medals to Phil, which myself, I learned a lot more about what he went through. And I want to personally say, welcome home, honey. Welcome home. I know, like Phil and I were talking, there's so many soldiers out here. And Phil has a real heart for his, what he calls brothers. They're his brothers. And he's practically, I don't think you know what Phil has done, given up a lot of things to work with veterans throughout his whole life. In 1992, he went back to Vietnam on a mission. A very high-powered man sent him there to do some investigating. And he put his life on the line again. But he doesn't brag about these things, but I just want to tell him now that I appreciate everything he's done. And I appreciate everything all of these soldiers here have done. And it's just no way to tell you thank you for showing up here tonight and honoring Phil and his nurses. We've got his nurses back there. We've got his pharmacists back there. We've got old neighbors from Chicago here. We've got the Bubba Hut. We've got the VFW. We've got our pastor and people from my Bible study. I mean, it's just my family, and I mean, it's just unbelievable because my mother's favorite thing to say is, now is the time for giving. And the VFW was nice enough to get some hors d'oeuvres, some little sandwiches. I know a lot of you gave up your dinner, so I'd like for you to stay and enjoy these sandwiches. So, thank you.
We were talking on the phone getting this thing set up, and we weren't 2 minutes into the conversation, and I said, what part of Chicago are you from? And she said, Rosemont. And kept talking, and I said, well, aren't you curious on how I know that? Well, it must have been in the paper somewhere. And I said, no, I'm from Chicago. I can detect an accent miles away. And she was talking about, was it the Slick family?
Yes, my dad being an airline.
In the old days, flying the airlines, and we had the old triple-tail Constellation that Howard Hughes designed. And I said, what's your email? She gave it to me, and I had shipped her a picture of a Constellation with Slick Airlines on the side within 30 seconds. Anyway, it's
Walmart special.
yeah. We're just gonna put that away. Looks like there's some good grub there, and again, thanks for letting us be a part of this. We really appreciate that.